Let me see, mic check. We on? Okay, cool. We are on. Hey, everybody, and welcome to the 23rd special edition of Trippin with Theobold. I am your host, Andre Theobold. I go by AT. I go by Dre Theo. I go by Dre. And shout out to Boogie B, because now I also go by Driggity. I like how that's how Driggity. My man Boogie B, man, he came up with Driggity. So those are all the nicknames I go by, and I probably have more nicknames yet to come. But without further ado, welcome to the show. And for those that don't know, the show is called Trippin with Theobold because I trip literally and figuratively. I trip in speech and I trip in thought figuratively, right? So when I was growing up, when I grew up, I had a severe speech impediment. I'm not all the way over it, so I literally trip on my words, And when I do, I just call it out. You know what I'm saying? Like I'll just be like, "Come on, Dre." When you see me do that, that meant that I stumbled on some words. You guys probably saw it, but I don't like doing retakes and I don't like editing. I just like to plow through. So that's why it's called Tripping with Theobald from that aspect. And then also I trip in thought. Like I have a lot of crazy ideas. I ask a lot of crazy questions. I try to think outside the box. So hence the name Tripping with Theobald. So, we have about another 2 more minutes before we can really start to talk the way we want to talk, because there's a lot we're going to talk about today. You know what I mean? But this is the 23rd special edition of Trippin' with Theo. But before we go any further, make sure you hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. You know what I'm saying? Tell a friend to tell a friend. You know what I'm saying? Pull up, listen to this. But this is the Mad Hatter edition, right? Or the Mad Hatter episode. Or the Mr. Potato Head episode. Right? So I was born on January 23rd. You know what I'm saying? And the number 23 is my favorite number. You know what I'm saying? Michael Jordan wore 23. It's a prime number. You know what I'm saying? So, I figured I'd do something special on episode 23. I probably should have shot this and released it on the 23rd, but whatever. We here. This is what we doing. And as you can see, these are all the hats on my bed right here, as you can see. I went in my closet, I cleaned out my tubs, and these are all the hats that I cycled through. All right. If you looked at the cover art of my photo, you can get a better glimpse of how many hats I own. From this view, you really can't see, but I counted the number of hats, and I have 89 hats, because I have another hat that just came in the mail today. 89 hats. So like when you're not blessed with a strong hairline such as myself, you invest in hats. Especially if you have a funny shaped head like me. Like I don't like walking around looking like this in public. Because I really can't change up. Because here's the thing, it's not a bad look, but I just don't. I like variety. I like to be able to change up my look, right? So if you have hair, you can like go with a fade, or you can go with a temper or a taper. You know what I'm saying? You can get cornrows. You could go with a Caesar. You can do all these different things, But when you bald headed, you can't do all these things, right? And no, I'm not growing my hair out, because as you guys can see where my hairline is, so y'all can see right here, and then even if this thing fills in, all this is gonna be thin. You know what I mean? So it is what it is, man. But I have 89 hats. Hence the name, the Mad Hatter episode, or the Mad Hatter edition of Tripping with Theobold, or the Mr. Potato. Come on, Dre, or the Mr. Potato. I can't even say potato. The Mr. Potato Head edition of. I'm up here sounding like Michael Dukakis and shit. He can't say potato and shit, Or I think he couldn't spell potato, but whatever, we get it. Or the Mr. Potato Head edition of Trippin' with Theobold. So, hence the name for this special edition of this show. So like I said before, man, tell a friend to tell a friend. Because right now we are still at Eric Smedley number of subscribers. All right, if you don't know who Eric Smedley is, he was a safety for the Buffalo Bills back in the late 90s, early 2000s. As y'all know, I'm a Bills fan. I know right now you see a lot of Wizards and Nationals hats, but there goes the Bills hat column right there, right behind me. And I'm trying to get to Reggie Gilliam number of followers, who's the fullback for the Buffalo Bills, number 41. So right now I'm at 40 subs, trying to get to 41. No, we gonna get there. So yeah, so what else we got going on, man? But yeah, I figured I'd do something different, because every episode I'm wearing a hat, right? So I figured, I change up and show the dome digitally, so take a look at it, laugh at it, whatever. This is what it is. But what else, man? Let me talk about some hats for a minute, man. Let me talk about my my evolution of my hat game, right? So when I was in college, first, come on, Trey. First, let me talk about like my hairline and shit, right? So I started losing my hair when I was like 19, I think. I was 19. Because I grew my hair out and I used to get cornrows and I had my hair relaxed. I had all that. Okay, we're past the 2-minute mark, so I can talk now. So I had all that shit done to my hair. Like I had my hair, I put relaxer in my hair and shit so they could braid it easier and shit. And I had like the long skinny braids. I had all these different hairstyle braids. And I didn't pay attention to the corners of my head, because the corners kept creeping back, And I remember one day I was at a pool workout, because I ran track when I was in college, and we had pool workout day on Wednesday. And I combed my hair out and I got in the pool. And when I came up, right, and when my hair was wet, like I had like the triangle shit in the corner of my head, you know what I'm saying? So one of the dudes in the pool was like, "Oh shoot, that's a nigga from Earth, Wind and Fire," And I was like, "Huh?" I looked in the mirror. I was like, "Oh wow," like I had that triangle shit. Like what's that dude that played in the NBA? Like I had that Calvin Murphy back when I was 19. Had that Calvin Murphy. Just Google Calvin Murphy, and when you Google Calvin Murphy, you'll see what I'm talking about. But he had that triangle shit, And that's what my shit was. But I always like bought hats. I always was a hat fan growing up, So I started out with fitted. I thought fitted was the way to go. But as time kept moving forward, what I found out about fitteds is that when you wear them a lot and you kind of like, and when you perspire in them a little bit, I'm not saying, so I wasn't working out in my hats, but when you wear a hat, it generates heat, and then when it perspires, what happens is the hat tends to kind of shrink a little bit, and then you lose that fit, So I was buying like a lot of fitteds when I was in college and running through them. And fitteds cost money. Fitteds cost more than snapbacks. Like typically fitteds are going to be like $45. Snapbacks are going to be like $38, So so then after I got tired of buying fitteds, which was I think the last fitted hat I bought it was a long time ago, but I haven't bought a fitted hat in a long time. Excuse me. But I remember when I was in, I would say about 2013, like right when I moved to Orange County, that's when I started buying more snapbacks, So I like snapbacks because, as you wear them more and you like perspire in them and they kind of start to shrink, you can always take the back and pop it back a dot, to make it feel like it's a newer, bigger fit, and you can like wear it to the side and all that fun stuff. So I started buying a lot of snapbacks. But I kind of got tired of snapbacks because when I travel, same issue I have with fitteds is you really can't travel with too many fitted or snapbacks, because when you travel with them and you put them in the case, even if you get the case to carry them in, they're going to get smushed and then the shape of the hat changes. And I'm real funny about my hats, man. Like if there's a crease in the wrong area of my hat, I throw that bitch in the trash, man, or I'll just give it away. Like I don't like wearing hats that don't look right. Like I'm very pristine when it comes to my hats. Now my dad, on the other hand, man, he would wear a hat and he would go cut grass in that shit. That shit would be dusty, all bent up, creased up, all origamied up, and he still wear that shit. And I'm like, I can't wear that shit. So I started getting, so I kind of got tired of snapbacks. And then also when I'm driving, like a lot of friends like make fun of me how I drive. Like I'm always up on the wheel. So when I'm driving, I'm up on the wheel. But when you have a snapback on and when you're driving, it's going to hit the top of the dash. Like, you know what I'm saying? So I keep bumping my head on the joint, or if I go in to give somebody dap or give somebody a hug, the bill would always catch them. So it would always like catch them and shit, so it got kind of like goofy and clumsy. So I still buy snapbacks, but not as much. So then probably about, I would say like 2017 maybe, that's when I started, looking at dad hats. And at first I wasn't a fan of dad hats because they just look weird and I have a weird shaped head. So when I put them on, they just don't look right. But when I went to the Nationals All-Star Weekend, I didn't go to the game, but I went to the Rising Stars game, and that's where I bought my first dad hat. And when I put it on, it was like weird, but then I saw how the cool kids were wearing them, and you don't like put it down all the way on your head. You're supposed to like, kind of tilt it up and kind of have it half on your head, and that's how I've been wearing my hats, and that's kind of been my look. Like when I go on stage and perform, I perform in a dad hat most of the time. Like that's just what I do. You know what I'm saying? So anywho, enough of hats, man. I don't want to bore y'all with hats because we got a lot to get into today. Let's talk about sports. Let's talk about some sports, man. NFL. Here come the fucking Patriots, man. They're looking like the old typical Bill Belichick team, right? They play defense. They have a quarterback that he's not as accurate as Brady, and he turns the ball over a little more than Brady, but Brady was doing that when Brady first came out, so they're looking like the old Patriots right now. So yeah, I really don't want to see these dudes. So when we see them, me being a Bills fan, man, we gotta squash them. Sweep. I don't want to give these motherfuckers no hope. They won enough already. They don't need to win no more. But anywho, in daily fantasy sports, I messed up last weekend. I took a lot of the. Let me take a sip of my hot cocoa right quick, man, because this is hot. This is hot cocoa weather and shit. You know what I'm saying? This is good. Swiss mix. Yeah, it's the hot cocoa weather time. Well, let me get my coaster out and not make a lot of noise when I do it, because I got my sound. I don't want my sound to pick it up. It did, but I didn't want it to. I didn't want it to go over on my mixer. Okay, you get the point. Oh, this hot cocoa tastes good, man. I love me some hot cocoa, man, especially in the cold, man. When you come outside from, shoveling some snow, and you get some hot cocoa. Shit, they could put on some cartoons, man. They just curl up in the blanket. You know what I'm saying? And just go to sleep. Anywho, let me stop messing around. So the mistake I made last week in daily fantasy sports, or in the Millie Maker, because as y'all know, I play the Millie Maker every week. I put $20 up. I try to get the perfect lineup. I study the lineups. And the mistake I made last week was that the people with their loud music on? Whatever, fuck it. We gonna work around them. Oh, that's just some loud ass kids. Anywho, the mistake I made last week in the Millie Maker was I picked too many people from the afternoon games. Like, I just looked at the data. I looked at the West Coast teams, and you don't fuck with the app. Like, just best bet. What I'm probably gonna do this week is I'm probably gonna do two. I might do two lineups, but I'm gonna have a morning centric lineup where I focus on the morning games, or only pick really from the morning games. I might go with Dalton Schultz from the Cowboys in that afternoon game against the Chiefs. But for my second lineup, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to pick numbers based on the data, you know, because everyone's big on Mahomes and the Cowboys and they think it's going to be this big shootout, but I don't think it's going to be that big of a shootout, man, because it's an afternoon game. It depends on the weather and where it's played at, you know. It's going to be good weather, but I feel like if the game was in Dallas, it might be a shootout. But it's a late game, or it's a 4:00 game. So, you know me, I really don't fuck with the 4:00 games like that. I mean, I watch them, but I don't pick from them because I want to do a research paper. I want to do some analytics and figure out why statistically are like the stats more jam packed in the early games than the 4:00 games. You know what I mean? Like the 1:00 games, since I'm on the West Coast, the 10:00 games, man, they be putting up like those games are just all over the place and they're just shooting up. It's like fireworks. But the 1:00 my time games or the 4:00 games, those window games, man, it's like they just get drug out. It's like it's just different, you know, from what I've seen. But anywho, my Theobold prediction, because that's one thing we're doing, right? It's the Theobold prediction. My Theobold prediction for the week, man, is it's going to be the attack of the Cats, man. The attack of the Cats, man. Carolina Panthers, they are going to demolish the Washington football team. And here's why, right? Number one, you got Cam back, you know what I'm saying? And Cam used to play for Ron Rivera. And then Ron Rivera, I think there's like a little rift between him and Cam. So I think Cam really wants to stick it to Ron Rivera now. This is the first game back. This is Cam's first game back as a starter. Like, if Sam Darnold was still playing, he probably wouldn't be playing football this year. So Cam is like looking at this as an opportunity to show that he can still play in the league, which I think he can. And then on top of that, you got Christian McCaffrey, aka CMC, is finally starting to get healthy again. You know what I mean? So once he's healthy, you can't stop him. Carolina's defense has been playing solid all year. And the Washington football team, like, they came off of an emotional win against the Buccaneers. Like, they beat the Bucs in DC. And they were hyped up about that game and that win. So whenever you have a game like that where you beat Brady and you come off that emotional win, you probably gonna get stomped out. So that's why I'm going heavy in my lineups with, I got Cam, I got CMC, and I typically don't pick defenses of the same quarterback and running back per the data, but when I looked at the numbers, man, a lot of defense is gonna get ran through tomorrow. So what I might even do is I might even just double down and just go real cheap and just get the cheapest, double digit projected defense I can get. You know, like I might fuck around with them Lions, man, and just pay like $2,200 and just hope that they can get me 10 points. It's possible, you know. I mean, they probably still gonna get blown out, but they can give me 10 points on defense. You know, I could see, I don't know, maybe not. Like, that's like 4 sacks. That's asking for a lot. 4 sacks, 2 picks. That'll get you 6 points. But then you also have to keep them under a certain amount. And I don't know. But you get the point. I'm trying to find the cheapest defense that can just get me 10 points. I'm not trying to find no defense. Because no defense tomorrow, I think, is going to get 20 points. Maybe Carolina, but everyone else, I don't think is going to get 20 points tomorrow. Based on the data and the numbers that I've looked at. But anyway, let's go ahead and move on to the NBA. So my Wizards had a tough loss the other night. They played the Hornets in Charlotte. And LaMelo didn't go off. But to me, I think that the Wizards beat themselves that game. They beat themselves that game because I cut the game on around the beginning of the third quarter, and they weren't doing the things that made them successful, right? Like all they wanted to do was just jack up them threes. Like they were coming down, not trying to set the offense, not trying to get no ball rotation or nothing, and just launching threes. And I think we were something like 4 for 29 from the field shooting threes. And when you got players like Trez on your team, man, if the three is not falling, you gotta just kick that ball down low to him and let him just put that ball in that hoop, man. So I'm sitting there watching the rest of this game, third quarter, and I'm watching these dudes because I think they were up by 8 when I cut the game on. They were up by like 8 points, and they just kept trying to shoot threes, and then they just went cold and kept missing. And they said, fuck it, we gonna keep trying. And then they ain't feed Trez, and they ended up losing by like 6, So it is what it is, man. But the Wizards are still a good team. Well, they still have a good record. This is a pretty solid team from what I've seen so far, but still have a lot of work to do. So in my fantasy league, man, everyone is trying to trade me for LaMelo. That shit is hilarious, man. I got one comedian who's a fantasy league I'm in, and he will not stop giving me shit for reaching for LaMelo. And I feel like I did the right thing. Like, I know I did the right thing, right? Because I think I had like the 8th overall pick, and my first overall pick, I had to go with the best player available, and that player at the time was James Harden. So I took James Harden, and we had a snake draft, so it went from 1 to 8, and then I think there was like 12 people in our league. So I ended up having like the 13th pick on the snake, and I looked at the players I reached over, and I reached over AD. I reached over AD, and I reached over Paul George. Maybe reaching over Paul George was maybe kind of a reach, but still, I mean, I saw LaMelo, and I knew if I didn't get him then, I wasn't going to get him later, and I'd rather take youth over a vet any day. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, so there's one comic in my league. He won't stop giving me shit about it, but it's all fun and games. Now, daily fantasy sports, man. I tried doing the traditional, DFS where you have to pick players based on salary allocation, let's just say I finished almost damn near dead last, so I left that shit alone. But I only spent like 25 cents on those little. I guess I do like quarter lineups. You know what I'm saying? I put a quarter at it. I throw a quarter at it. I throw a quarter here, a quarter there. If I can flip it into $5, cool. You know what I'm saying? But the tiers is really weird, right? Like the tiers that I do, which basically gets you into the action a whole lot quicker. At first, I was trying to look at the data that DraftKings provided, and now I look at just the season averages, and if the player at the top of the tier, if they were ahead of the second place person in that tier by more than like 2 points, I automatically went with the dude with the higher average. That didn't work, and then I just said, who's the better player overall, right? And just tried doing that. I kind of got lucky doing that. I won like 50 cents here, 75 cents there. But today, I went back and I looked at Line Star, man. I can't leave Line Star alone. Like that data just looked too pretty. When you look at the plots and the graph charts, and you see the trajectory of who's scoring what, it's like you think you can predict who's going to score what. So I haven't won any big money doing that, but I mean, I guess call me insane because I'm doing the same thing, expecting new results. So whatever. So let me see. I think my competition started already. Who's this trying to call me? Let me see right quick. Let me see if the first joint started. Okay, I'm winning 60 cents. Okay. We'll see how it goes. But yeah, I picked Giannis Antetokounmpo tier one. I got James Harden. That was a no-brainer. I got LaMelo. Had to look at the research and the data for that one. I got Zach LaVine, Van Vliet, and Porzingis. So hopefully I walk away with some cheddar. Let me get this out right quick. Anywho, what else, man? So that's that. So now let's go ahead and get into some real talk, man. Hate talking about this shit, but I figure I'll go ahead and address it, because it is what it is. But the Rittenhouse verdict came out today, and I knew what the fuck it was gonna be. Like, I'm not gonna sit up here and come on, man. This is America. You know how this shit go down. Like, a lot of people were like actually watching the case and watching the hearings and listening. I'm just like, man, why do you all feed into that shit? You know what I'm saying? Like, I knew that the more, here's the thing, right? Here's how psychology works, right? When you give energy to something and you feed into something that you have no control over, and then, or just when you feed into something like that, you give that thing power over your emotions. And people got to stop doing that shit. You know what I'm saying? Like, you got to cut that shit out, man. So when I heard all that stuff come out and I just heard bits and pieces, I was like, yeah, I already know what's going to happen. He going to walk. All right? He going to walk. I knew he was going to walk. But I want to talk about, like, some outlying things that, I want to talk about the message that's being sent, right? A lot of people aren't really paying attention to what white supremacy is saying, right? They're saying that whenever there's a protest and you niggas get a little too unrowdy, or if you don't protest the way we want you to protest, right? Home rules, if we feel uncomfortable with what you're doing, we can go out and bear arms and shoot and police y'all. Right? Because clearly, at the end of the day, the dude was using guns to protect property, and you can't use guns to protect property, right? That's not yours. I mean, you can't use guns to protect property, period, right? Like, it all gets into, right? It all gets into, castle doctrine versus stand your ground shit, right? So basically, when it comes to protesting and marching, all states can be stand your ground states, right? But here's the thing, though, right? If someone is breaking into your house and you have a gun, you have like, if someone has forced entry coming into your house and they have to break in to come into your house and you have a firearm, you can blow their brains out, right? Per the law. And I agree with that. You know what I'm saying? You should be breaking up in people's houses, no way. You know what I'm saying? But this dude, Kyle Rittenhouse, was out on patrol with no police training or nothing, with a gun that he did not legally own, a rifle at that matter. And he felt the need to protect his city, quote unquote, right? So the message that's being sent is a very scary message, man. And it's, if a white person feels scared at any given point in time and they have a gun or a firearm or a rifle or whatever, and they decide that they scared enough to shoot somebody, they gonna get them off, right? Like, they gonna get away with it. So at the end of the day, like, the whole courts, basically the court and the judicious, or I can't even talk. That's the judicious, and the judicial system. They basically said that what that boy did was okay. They had no problem with it. Like, he's right. That's what they're saying. So, like I said before, man, I don't feed into bullshit. and that's bullshit. You know what I'm saying? Um, as my good friend always says, hey man, sometimes you gotta scorch the earth, man. You gotta let this shit just burn up sometime, you know. So, hey man, whatever happens, happens. You know, I'm over it. Um, and let's talk about bitch ass Biden, man. Like a lot of y'all up here, like first of all, I'm not a Trump supporter. I don't fuck with either president. You know what I'm saying? But to me, Trump and Biden are the same person, and I've been trying to tell people that for the longest time. You know, team white supremacy is team white supremacy. You know what I'm saying? Like, and Biden came out and said that basically he said that the judicial system works and it is what it is. Like, let me actually get his exact quote because I don't want to misquote anybody. Let's see what the hell he said. What did Biden say? Hold on. Give me a second. See now. So now Biden's up here white splaining. This motherfucker is terrible. So first his reaction was 3 hours ago. It was the exact quote from Biden was he said the jury system works and we have to abide by it, right? Okay. Then we get here and it says Biden calls for calm but says Rittenhouse not guilty verdict leaves him angry and concerned. So he put out his first comment so the first comment he put out, which was written by CNN or which was covered by CNN, he put that out there as like a litmus test, and he probably saw his ratings drop like shit, and then he had to come back and clean that shit up. So Biden is nothing more than a Vice Chancellor Valorum, right? So if you guys are Star Wars fans, and if you know who Vice Chancellor Valorum is, you know that nigga ain't shit, right? So Biden is Vice Chancellor Valorum in the flesh, all right? But anywho, and then you remember I think a few weeks ago, Obama came out and he was trying to rally for another Democratic like front runner for something or whatever, and he was trying to kind of explain how he couldn't do anything for black people and how difficult it is, and he had that whole passionate speech about it's hard, right? That it's hard speech, right? So I'm willing to bet that here's the thing, man. I'm not even gonna make any bets, yo. All I know is that if Obama don't come out and say some shit about this, he has no business coming out saying shit, yo. Just straight up, man. That's just terrible. You know what I mean? So, but what this really is about, what this whole Rittenhouse verdict thing is about, is it's about basically this is their way of stopping like riots and shit, right? And at the end of the day, if the judicial system, like if shit wasn't so corrupt and the law came out and it was just, there wouldn't be any riots because people would understand. You know what I'm saying? But the fact that the shit is corrupt and because things are the way they are in this country, you're going to have riots. So now what they're doing to counteract the riots is they're going to say, okay, well, if a white person feels threatened, even if they're not being attacked and they're in their own home, they're in their own house, but if they see public property out getting destroyed, they have a right to go bear arms and go shoot whoever. And that's dangerous, right? Because once you cross that line, there's no coming back. So, yeah, man. So, very scary times we in. But like I said, man, this is why at the end of the day, like, people get mad at me. Because, like, I don't know. Like, I do the bare minimum. All I do is I pay my taxes. Because I know if I don't pay my taxes, I will go to jail, right? So that's all I do. Like, I don't fill out my census. I don't vote. I don't do none of that shit. I'm not saying I just don't do it. I'll look into it if I have time, right? I'll look to see, well, really what I look for when I vote or if I vote is, who's trying to sell me for my vote? Like what are you trying to, like, can you convince me that you're worthy of my time? And right now, all these clowns that they had in the past, like 5-10 years, man, these motherfuckers are not worthy of my time. They're not worthy of me picking up a pencil and reading the shit because of how they market and how they talk to black people, right? Like when I see Democrats come out and carry around hot sauce in their purses and shit, and they do all the black dances and shit, but they don't talk about tangibles, you know? Or when Biden come out and says some fuck shit like, hey, if you don't vote for me, you're not black. Nigga, I cut my TV off and I just tune them niggas out. Like, I don't got time for that. You know what I'm saying? Like, if you're gonna talk to me like I'm fucking dumb, I'm not gonna participate in your system. I don't have to play in your system, right? And that's the thing, right? When you don't, it's all about choosing to give people power, right? Like whenever you participate in something, you're not just participating in it and giving time, but you're also giving the person or the entity that governs that process, you're giving them power, right? You're giving them power over you, right? Because at the end of the day, whether you vote or not, or whoever you vote for, if you don't like the outcome, you still got to abide by the rules that come from, or that come forth from that process. So to me, it's like, I look at the government like the house in a casino. You know what I'm saying? Like the house always wins. You know what I'm saying? But how can you minimize the fuckery at the end of the day, right? That's how I look at this shit. Like, I don't try to sit up here and think that, I'm gonna try. Because when you get invested into something and then shit don't go your way, it's like you wasted time, energy, and effort all for what? Nothing. See, people need to be focused more on Senate.gov and reading them laws that they're trying to pass through, or reading those bills that they're trying to pass through. You know what I'm saying? That's where the effort needs to be at. Fuck listening to speeches and polls. All that shit is pillow talk. I don't listen to that shit, right? I go to Senate.gov and I'm like, oh, okay, they're trying to pull up this bill. Okay, what are they trying to do? Oh, they trying to do this fuck shit. Okay, who signed this bill? Who came up with this bill? Oh, this person came up with it. Okay, I'm not fuck. That's how I think. But anywho, man, like I said, I really don't want to give this shit too much more time because it's really, all this shit is beneath me. You know, this shit is not worth my time. Like when I see stupid shit like this, I'm just like, man, whatever. So let's move on. So instead of talking about work talk today, I want to talk about, religious. I don't want to call it religious talk, but I came up so I basically grew up in the church, or I grew up in churches, right? When I was young, I started going to this Methodist church with my sitters, like from like a little tot. Like I was in the Methodist church, and then in middle school, my pop wanted me to go to the school, to go to med school, and it was a Seventh-day Adventist school. So when you go to a Seventh-day Adventist school, it's like basically going to a church school. Like you have Bible class you have Bible class as a class. So like you have Bible from like 4th grade all the way through like high school or however you matriculate. But you have but you have a Bible class a day, or as a subject, right? Just like math and science, there's Bible, right? And I want to talk about false prophets today, man, and how false prophets use religion to control the masses, because I was a victim of that shit, you know? Which is why, like, I'm big about searching and reading the scriptures, right? Like, I search the scriptures, right? But I probably do it for the wrong reasons, you know? Like, I search scriptures so when people come at me trying to talk this Bible shit and they talk about they God sent, I'm gonna be like, nigga, I need book, chapter, and verse. And if you can't break that shit down to me, nigga, you probably an agent of Satan and don't even know it. You know what I'm saying? So if you come to me talking something fuckery, or you come to me talking shit, I'm gonna say, okay, cool, that's nice. Give me book, chapter, and verse. And if you can't tell me, I'm gonna be like, man, get the fuck out of my face. Or I'll be like, man, shut your ass up. You know what I'm saying? Because let me go ahead and tell you this little story, and you'll see why I am the way I am when it comes to this shit. Because a lot of people like don't grow up around any church shit. They don't grow up in the church. They have no parochial schooling or nothing, and they get to just live life free, and they don't have to deal with any of this, and then they're not oppressed by any of this shit, and then they get to go live their dreams, and then they get to go do whatever they want, and then they become the people that, hey, you should be like them, and then but when they're not exposed to what you've been exposed to, it's like, how would they have fought through that? So let me go ahead and talk. Let me go ahead and explain, and then maybe you'll see where I'm coming from, right? So, anywho, I came up church-heavy background. You know what I'm saying? Not by choice. So when I was in middle school, I wanted to, like, I was like a regular kid. I wanted to be in it. I wanted to make it to the NBA. Like that was like one of my dreams. I wanted to make it to the NBA. I wanted to be able to buy my mom a new house and take care of my folks and just live the life and get all the pretty girls, drive the nice cars and shit, and just be the man. You know what I'm saying? But I didn't know that, I wasn't gonna, like, you have no like concept or no perception of height or whatever, right? But still, at the end of the day, it was my dream. It was my dream to find out that I couldn't do, but I had other people like, meddle with that shit, and I don't like that. So anywho, when I was in middle school, like I was like trying to make the basketball team. I got cut like 4 years in a row, but I just hustled, and I was out playing everybody, and I just couldn't make my middle school team. So I started going to basketball camps, and I remember I got my Pistol Pete homework, basketball tapes, and I'm working on the drills, like, you know what I'm saying? And I'm outside in the slow. I said slow. I'm outside in the snow, in the sleet, in the rain, in the hail. Like, fingertips are numb, toes are numb, hands achy, in the heat, before homework, before the sun comes up. That's all I did. I'm outside working on my basketball skills, Like, I literally ate, slept, and shat basketball, That I'd watch the games, study. Like, I was really trying to make it to the NBA, man. And I had this one problem, right? Where, like, I'm naturally right-handed, but I couldn't, like, go to my left, right? So I did all these drills, but by myself while I was working on these drills, I was able to go to my left. I was able to shoot with my left. I was able to do, like, basically on my own, I was able to, like, I was basically becoming ambidextrous, right? But when I got in the game, there's like a psychological piece where I couldn't go left, right? It was like when I did it, I would revert to the old me with how I went to my left, and I would do something like either bounce the ball off my leg, or I would turn the ball over, and then I have to go sit the bench. So I made my high school team, and then I was still having issues with going to my left, right? So, excuse me, man, that was nasty. So anywho, let me get some more cocoa. So anywho, I remember there was so like in my school, come on, Dre. I remember in my school we had this thing called chapel, right? And chapel basically is like it's like once a week. It's like a mini church service. You come in there and you sing songs and you pray, and you fellowship, you worship, whatever, for like maybe like an hour and a half or so, and you do that like once a week, right? So I remember we had this well-known, well-renowned preacher in the area, like, who put out like albums. He could sing, you know what I'm saying? And I remember being in chapel, and I remember being moved, like, yo, like, I really believe what he's saying, like, basically his whole message was, hey, if you put it in God's hands, God's gonna make it all right. You know what I'm saying? And God's gonna God and God and God. God is gonna make it all right. Just give your problems to him and he's gonna make it all right. So I said, you know what? I said, maybe I gotta go to him to ask him about my left hand, you know what I'm saying? Or about me being able to go to my left in basketball. You know what I'm saying? So I went up to him after the service and I was like, yeah, man, yo, it was a dope service. I didn't say dope. I was like, yo, I really appreciate everything you said and it really inspired me and, you know, it really moved me. And I was wondering, if you could like pray for like me and my left hand. So, you know, I could, I can go to the left in my games and, you know, I can go left so I can like, you know, basically I was asking for him to help me pray for my left hand so I could go left in the games, you know, and become a more versatile player. And this nigga looked at me and said, is that what God wants? And then walked away. So when you're in high school and you hear this and you're like moved and you're asking for help or someone to help you and you hear this and you hear that, it was like, yo, like, so that just messed me up all in the head. Like I'm sitting there like, man, is me doing all this work and failing, is this God's way of saying, hey, nah, this ain't for you. I don't want you to do that. Right? So now I'm in my head. Now, instead of worrying about just getting better and working on my left hand dribbling skills, I'm worried about, man, if I keep doing this and if God doesn't want me to do this, am I going to go to hell? Like, you know what I'm saying? So long story short, I didn't get better with going to my left in the games. And I ended up putting the rock down, like maybe like in my junior year of high school, you know? And that's not the only reason why like I put the rock down. I mean, I put the rock down for other reasons. When I say I put the rock down, I don't mean crack. I mean, I put the basketball down. So I put the basketball down because I started running track. And I looks like I had more of an opportunity to run track or to, you know, that wasn't, so him saying that to me wasn't like the only reason why I put the basketball down. But if he actually prayed for me or if I didn't even go to him, who knows where I'd be right now. You know what I'm saying? Maybe I might, like, you know, maybe I was like 99% there, but I just had to get that one last percent in the game to where it just all clicked. Who knows, right? So that's why, like, you know, I am the way I am when it comes to religion and the scriptures, you know? So on the flip side, the school I went to for high school, it was a pretty competitive basketball. Our school was, it's weird. Like we were in a competitive league. Like all the big name players in NBA, like, or some of them came to they played against our school, you know? So we played against schools like Archbishop Carroll and Bishop Ironton, Georgetown Prep, DeMatha. We played against, who else? We played against all these schools, right? But like, for example, Kevin Durant, I think, went to Archbishop Carroll in DC for a hot second. You know what I mean? So the school I went to was in that competitive, you know, basketball league or that basketball conference or whatever, in the parochial divisions. But I remember we had like some recruits, right? Like we had like recruits that would come and like play for our school and stuff or whatever. And the recruits, it seemed like they could get away with shit. Like, you know what I'm saying? And I'm not trying to hate on them. I mean, they were all cool with me. But I mean, it was just, you saw the different way how the faculty treated them versus people that were non-recruits, right? Like, for example, you know, you could have a player that was barely going to class, skipping school, skipping study hall or whatever. And they would come to class late on crutches. And the teacher would be like, oh my goodness, Zechariah, your ankle. Oh my goodness, like, hey, what happened to your ankle? And they'd be like, oh, I sprained it trying to get the study hall teach. Ha! Right? The teacher would be like, oh my goodness, let us pray. Right? And then they start praying for this motherfucker ankle who not trying to apply himself. You know what I'm saying? But yet, I'm out here working with these Pistol Pete homework basketball tapes in the cold, in the sleet, in the snow, in the rain, day in, day out, hours and hours and hours. And then when I go to ask a motherfucker to pray for my left hand, he gonna tell me, is that what God wants? You know what I'm saying? That's how motherfuckers use religion to control niggas. You know what I'm saying? And that's why I'm big on like reading the scriptures for myself. Like I'll read the scriptures, and if you God sent, you should be able to break them scriptures down. If you're not, you need to put that book down. You need to put that book down and stop and like stop putting other people's blood on your hands. Cause me, I will never. I'm not gonna say never, cause I don't like saying the word never. But me in this state right now, I'm never gonna even tell anyone like, you know, what scripture says or try to break anything down, because I'm not God sent. Like that's not there's nothing within me that's telling me to do that. And if there is something within me telling me to do that, I need to seriously question that to make sure that it's from him. Because if it's not, nigga, and you still doing that shit, you got blood on your hands when you do that shit. So to me, people that say they want to be preachers and God didn't put that in them, like that's some serious shit. You know what I'm saying? But I don't want to go too far into that, because that's not why. I'm just talking about my whole reason for bringing this up is because I'm trying to show how motherfuckers, you know, use religion to control niggas. You know what I'm saying? Like if you're a talented player or a talented athlete at a school and they recruit you, they're gonna pray around you. They're gonna make sure they cater to you, and everything is gonna, oh God this, and oh God this, God this, God this. Oh, we gotta pray, and make sure everything's good. And this motherfucker don't even gotta try. He can come in and be bullshitting the whole time, and they'll still pray for this nigga, right? But the man that comes in and he's working and busting his ass and really trying to get better at something, if you ask them to go pray, they gonna tell you, oh nigga, is that what God wants? Get the fuck out of here. You know what I'm saying? So that's why I'm big into, like, you know, just reading the scriptures, yo. And maybe, like I said before, it's probably the wrong reason to read the scriptures, but when people start coming to me talking this God stuff and all this God shit, man, I'm telling you, if you don't know what the fuck you're talking about, it's gonna be evident. And when I ask you certain questions and you can't answer, end the conversation. I'm done. I'm out. Right? I don't want to hear that shit. You know, like if you can't give me book, chapter, and verse and break that shit down, get out my face. Be gone. So that's kind of where I'm at in life right now, right? Like I'm reading the scriptures for myself, but I'm also like questioning stuff. But if someone comes along and they're trying to deter me from doing something else, and they come in the name of God or the name of Jesus, and they don't know that there are other books in the scriptures besides the 66 that are in the standard Bible, I'm gonna tell them, man, you need to stop what you're doing, man. And though you need to go ahead and, I'm gonna tell them straight up, man, you need to go ahead and repent of your sins and go down in water in the name of Jesus. And you need to go ahead and get baptized, man. And like be like everybody else, you know what I mean? So yeah, it's a real touchy subject with me, man. Like I really don't take light. I don't take kind of that. But that's neither here nor there. You know what I'm saying? That's just something that I'm going through, or that I went through. And I'm trying to make it a joke too, because that shit to me is kind of funny, but it's also like serious. But anywho, let me go ahead and get on to this comedy bump, man. So I had a comedy bump last night, man. Like last night, the comedic universe was against me, or it wasn't against me, it was challenging me, right? So I was trying to do 4 spots last night, ended up only doing 1 spot. So I started at 5 o'clock p.m., didn't get in until 2 a.m., right? The life of a comic. I left my house at 5, didn't get done until 2 a.m. So went to this 1 spot. It was a new mic. I thought it was up. I drove out there. It was locked up, padlocked up. So that was that. Then I went to another spot. And then I checked out these 3 comedians that like I follow or that like I have respect for. So I wanted to go check them out. I'm also going to be performing at that spot. I got a date. I got to look at the date again. But I'll be there again pretty soon. I think I'll be there next month. And then there's a new spot, or it's a new old spot, right? It's a spot that I did before. It's like a workout room. It's more of like a hood room, but it's fun, you know. And what makes it fun is it's like if you doing bad and if you struggling, like don't let your ass know, you know, and then you'll get heckled, and you got to sit up there and take it, you know. It's a hard room, but I like doing challenge rooms. But anywho, the main thing I learned from yesterday's or from last night's ordeals is the importance of being on time, especially in comedy, right? The comedy rule is if you're on time, you're late. So I think I just tried to do too much in one night, but I mean, it was doable. But now it's kind of like I know if you try to stretch things out too thin, this is what can happen, right? So what happened was I was at this one spot. I was checking out these other comedians, and they kind of got spaced out, and they were doing longer sets. Then I ran into two other comedians that wanted to like know some more spots to go hit up. So I gave them the spot of the third spot I was going to for the night, and then they left the second spot before me, and they got there, and then they got up, and if I didn't tell them, or if I didn't run into them, or if they didn't show up to that spot, I wouldn't have went up at the third spot. But they basically kind of like gave me enough time to see my other comedian friends perform and then go there to actually have a shot at getting up. So by the time I got there, so all in all, I didn't have a good set at the spot. My intention was, or my thought process was, it was a workout room and it was going to be more of like an opportunity for me to kind of get up and work out some new shit I wanted to work out. But when I got there, it was more like a show. Like you had people there with food and stuff. And I was like, oh man, this is a show. Shit, I didn't know this was a show. I mean, I didn't know it was a show like that, right? So, and typically like a lot of rooms will be like that, right? Like typically when you go into a mic, you have to know how to read a room. Like just because something is a mic, you might go to a mic, but if you see Bob Sumner there, nigga, that's a show. That's a showcase, right? Based on who's there, nigga, that's a showcase. You know what I mean? So, part of being a comedian is going into a room and being able to read the room, right? So, if I go to a mic and I'm trying to work on new material, I'm trying to make sure it's a safe place for me to work on the new material, you know? But if I go there and if it's someone that books for a certain show, or if they're a producer, and you gotta come out with your A game, you know? So that's what happened. It was basically, it ended up like there was no producer or promoter there. But it was it had a show feel, and people and all the comics were doing material. So I'm like, oh crap, I gotta do material. So, I didn't have a good set because one, like I said, the main reason why is because I got there late. And the people that were there, they ate and they just were like smoking and shit. They were like finishing up smoking or whatever. And the host brought on the two comedians that I sent over, and he told them that they were the last ones to go up. And then when I came in, he threw me up, but then he said, oh, remember I told y'all that, you know, this was the last comic? We have one more surprise drop in or whatever, yada, yada, yada. And I could see the people's faces. They were like, I'm ready to go. Like they had that side look. So before I even got up, like I was walking into that, which is my fault because I got there late. So what I should have done in that situation was I should have called the pink elephant out in the room. I should have just joked about being late and, oh, y'all. I should have been more headsy, and I should have just been more conversational about that and just had fun with the audience, and then dropped a joke or two off then closed out and left, right? But instead, I just plowed through my material, and I got laughs, but it was weird. It was like they were like, okay, yeah, we know you're funny, nigga, but it's late, it's time to go. Like that was like the vibe. Um, um, and the way the room was set up was you had like a table here with most of the people, and then there was a DJ, and then there was a wall, and then there was the guy that was the host or the main person that ran the show, not the host, but like the person that owned the actual building, and then there was a few people scattered over here. So I was trying to deliver my jokes like this, and I was constantly but that wasn't their fault. That was my fault. Like I gotta be able to control that and make that shit fun, So, so when I left, like all the comics or all the people that were there, they were kind of giving like props to the comics that went before me. They were like, "Hey man, you were funny as hell. Hey man, you were funny as hell." Then when it got to me, "Hey man, nice seeing you, man." And I'm like, okay. So it is what it is. It's like that show. It wasn't the worst show I've ever done, but it's like it definitely wasn't like close to my best. But this is why we get out, right? It's like the best thing you can do as a comedian is just get out and just you gotta keep on keeping on, man. Like, what I'm saying? You can't quit. What I'm saying? You can't stop. You gotta you gotta take time to analyze why you think you fucked up on something, and then you gotta go back and then see if you can't make some tweaks and go back and just keep doing it again. Right? You gotta be hard headed with this shit. So anywho, then after that I tried to go to another spot out in the valley. And I got there, and by the time I got there, it was like 12:45, and I saw the host, and I thought they were gonna put me up. And they were like, but when they saw how, I think there was like 3 other comics I watched, and then on the 3rd comic, they were like, yeah, after him, this is it, because we got to wrap up. And I'm like, oh, all right. So, that's how comedy is sometimes, man. I went out to 4 spots, got up at 1. And I almost didn't get up at that 1 spot. So, but I think I tried to do too much in one night. That's probably what it was. But, it is what it is. Anywho, let me go ahead and hit that like button, hit that subscribe button if you haven't done it already. You know what I'm saying? Tell a friend to tell a friend. And what else? AT is where it's at on all forms of social media. So make sure you follow me. So what's coming up big next for me is I got this big showcase coming up on December 12th at Chocolate Sundays, First Impressions, 7 o'clock, 7 p.m. You can go to my Instagram page at AT is where it's at and look at the flyer for more ticket details, more information. But this is a big deal, man. I'm only doing 3 minutes, but it's a big deal, To put things into perspective, if you were to sign up today to try to get on the live version of the First Impression show that I'm going to be doing on December 12th, if you're successful in the process, it will take you probably like 3 to 4 years to get to that point, right? Because right now you have to go through virtual First Impressions, right? So that list is already going into like I think 2023 right now. So you have to get on that, right, and do the virtual Zoom show and get vetted by the staff to see if you're even eligible to perform on the main show, on First Impressions on the main show. And then once you do that, once you perform and do that and make it past that, then you get a date, and your date might not be for like another 2 years. You know what I'm saying? So that's what I'm saying. Like, if this is a big deal, man, I mean, I have to get this. Like, I have to get on stage, and I have to put foot to ass on that stage. I have to be undeniably funny, right? There is no ifs, ands, or buts about it, because like, if the worst happens or whatever, I got to start over, and that's another 4 years probably, just to get back to do First Impressions, right? So this is a very competitive, stringent process, right? Like, you do first impressions. If you do well, then you'll get another date. If you do really well, I think you'll get a grad spot next time, which is like 5 minutes. And then when you get a grad spot, you gotta knock it out the park. And then once you knock it out the park, maybe you'll start getting booked on the main shows, you know? So, I've seen a lot of grad spots come up, and I've seen and the grad spots have been hit or miss. Like, I've seen some grad spots where they murdered, man. They got up there and did their thing. You know, I've seen some people get up and do a grad spot, and they kind of just like mailed it in, you know? But my strategy moving forward is when I'm on that show, on that stage, like, I'm not doing any repeat jokes. They are going to know that I have a stockpile of material. They are going to know that I am a comedian, right? So the jokes I do on 12/12, on that stage, on that show, if you're not there, then you're just going to miss those jokes that I do, because I'm probably not going to do them. I'm not going to say on that stage, because there are other shows that happen. But for that specific show, Chocolate Sundays, I will not be doing any repeat jokes. So the dilemma I'm in right now is I'm in quite of like a little, I'm like in like a little dilemma. So I have a lot of material. And I have a lot of like 30-second bits. I have a lot of like 1 minute bits or jokes. And then I have like 3.5 minute to like 5 minute jokes, or 3.5 to 5 minute bits or routines. So the dilemma I'm in is, you get 3 minutes on first impressions, right? So I know that I can't do any of my proven, 3.5 minute bits or longer, because I will hit the light before I get to the end of my bit. And then, I don't want to get the mic cut off on me, and then I don't want to be building and then have to just, cut off and leave abruptly. The same token, all my 1 minute, 3 minute, all my 1 minute bits or jokes, they're not all related to each other. So it's like, I'm gonna do 1, 2, 3, thank you, good night. They're all gonna be funny, but they're not gonna build in any sort of progression. It's just gonna be, I'm just throwing jokes out there. So, like I said, right now, I'm still continuing with my process, which is I go out, I work out new material. I try to book other shows, and when I book other shows, I try to do my longer pieces. And I'm always trying to work out new material. And like I said before, I'm not gonna force material for first impressions. Like, this is a culmination of all the work I've done in the past. You know what I'm saying? So, I'm going to allow myself, or I'm going to allow for the opportunity for new jokes and new material to come in, such that if they do come in, I might use those jokes in the next couple of weeks that I have. I might throw one of those jokes on the show. Who knows? But I'm just being open to the process and the idea of having new material come in. So that being said, it's a pretty stressful time right now, but it's a good time. I'm looking forward to it. This is an opportunity for me to take the next step in this comedy journey. So wish me luck. But anywho, like I said, man, AT is where it's at on all forms of social media. Follow me. And with that being said, this has been the Mad Hatter / Potato. This has been the Mad Hatter / Mr. Potato Head edition of Trippin with Theobold. And that's all, folks. I'm out. Peace.